It was supposed to be just another glitter-filled night on Dancing with the Stars, sequins, smiles, and the occasional friendly jab between judges. But when Hilaria Baldwin took the floor for her latest routine, the ballroom turned into a battleground. What began as a night of performance quickly spiraled into one of the most heated judge disagreements in DWTS history, a fiery debate that left the audience gasping, the contestants speechless, and social media ablaze. The setup: Hilaria's high-stakes comeback. After weeks of middling scores and tabloid whispers questioning her authenticity, Hilaria Baldwin knew she needed a statement performance. Her partner, professional dancer Artem Chigbintsev, choreographed a bold paso doble set to a haunting flamenco-inspired version of Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. The dance opened with Hilaria alone under a crimson spotlight, her eyes piercing through the smoke. She wore a matador-inspired ensemble, black lace, gold embroidery, and a long red skirt that whipped around her as she stomped across the stage. By the end, she ripped off the skirt, twirling into Artem's arms for a dramatic dip that ended with a defiant stare straight into the camera. The audience erupted into applause. Tyra Banks, ever the show woman, shouted over the cheers, "Now that's how you make a comeback." But as the lights dimmed and the judges prepared to speak, it became clear, not everyone in the panel agreed on what they had just witnessed. The spark: Hough praises, Carrie Ann Inaba objects. Hough was first to comment, standing in admiration. "That was fire, Hilaria. I saw strength, passion, and pure commitment. You took a risk, and it paid off. This is the Hilaria Baldwin I've been waiting for all season." The crowd cheered again, and Hilaria beamed, visibly relieved. But Carrie Ann Inaba's expression was less enthusiastic. She folded her arms, leaned into her mic, and said with a sharp tone, "Okay, yes, it was dramatic. But was it dance? I felt like you were acting your way through it instead of letting your body tell the story." Gasps echoed across the ballroom. "Carrie Ann," Derek interjected, trying to keep the peace, "that's the essence of a paso doble, it's about character, intensity." Carrie Ann cut him off. "Intensity is fine, but if you're stomping around and breaking frame, it's not a proper paso doble. I call it like I see it." At this point, Bruno Tonioli dramatically flung his hands in the air. "Oh, come on. This is Dancing with the Stars, not strictly ballroom. She gave us theater. She gave us España. She gave us life." The audience roared with laughter and applause. But the tension between the judges was palpable. The explosion: Carrie Ann versus Bruno, and then Len steps in. When Bruno passionately defended Hilaria's theatricality, Carrie Ann fired back. "I'm not saying it wasn't entertaining, Bruno. But when someone breaks hold 5 times in a ballroom routine, I have to call it out. That's my job." Bruno leaned forward, eyes wide. "Your job is to judge the performance, darling, not to be the dance police." That line set Carrie Ann off. "Excuse me, I've been judging ballroom longer than some contestants have been walking. Don't tell me how to do my job, Bruno." The crowd gasped audibly this time, even Hilaria looked uncomfortable. Tyra tried to defuse the moment by nervously laughing. Okay, save the drama for next week's Argentine tango, you two." But before the tension could cool, Len Goodman, the late, great judge whose absence was still deeply felt, was invoked by Carrie Ann in her next comment. "Len would have hated that routine," she said bluntly. The audience booed. Bruno rolled his eyes. Derek shook his head. "Don't speak for Len," Derek said. Softly but firmly. "You don't know what he'd think." And that's when the argument truly boiled over. Behind the scenes, producers step in. Sources from inside the studio later revealed that producers briefly cut to commercial earlier than planned to calm the situation. One insider claimed the tension between Carrie Ann and Bruno wasn't scripted or playful, it was real. Hilaria didn't know where to look, the source added. She was standing there with this forced smile while Carrie Ann and Bruno went back and forth like they were in a courtroom drama. Apparently, Artem even stepped in off mic to support his partner, saying, "You can critique, but you can't disrespect." The moment never made it to the final live cut, but fans watching at home noticed the abrupt transition and took to X, formerly Twitter, immediately. Social media erupts. Within minutes, #DWTS judge fight began trending. Fans picked sides faster than you could say, cha-cha-cha. One user wrote, "Carrie Ann's right, rules are rules. You can't just stomp around and call it a paso doble. #DWTS. Another fired back, "Bruno was spot on. This is entertainment, not a textbook. Hilaria gave passion, not posture." Hashtag Team Bruno. Memes flooded the internet. One showed Bruno holding up a 10 paddle labeled drama, while Carrie Ann held up a 4 labeled technique. Another simply read DWTS or WWE. Even Alec Baldwin's name started trending as fans joked he might storm the stage to defend his wife. Hilaria breaks her silence. Backstage, Hilaria kept her cool, at least publicly. In her post-performance interview, she gracefully deflected the controversy. Honestly, I think the passion between the judges just shows how much everyone cares, she said, still smiling. I came here to learn, to challenge myself, and if I ruffled a few feathers, maybe that's a good thing. She later posted a photo of herself and Artem on Instagram with the caption, "We danced with fire tonight, sometimes that burns, sometimes it lights the way. Fire." The post earned over 100,000 likes within hours, and comments poured in from fans praising her professionalism. The fallout: producers consider a new rule. By the next morning, DWTS insiders were reportedly holding urgent tone meetings to discuss the growing tension among the judges. While creative disagreements were part of the show's DNA, this one crossed into uncomfortable territory. One producer told Entertainment Weekly, "It's great TV, but there's a line between debate and disrespect. We love the passion, but we don't want the focus to shift away from the dancers." Rumors began swirling that future episodes might feature a judge moderation system, allowing producers to cut mics if on-air arguments get too heated. The audience reacts in studio. Audience members who attended the taping described the scene as electrifying but awkward. "You could feel the tension," said one fan who was in the front row. "When Carrie Ann snapped at Bruno, the air just changed. Everyone was holding their breath." Another claimed that after the commercial break, Carrie Ann barely looked at Bruno for the rest of the show, while Derek tried to lighten the mood by cracking jokes. "It was like watching your parents fight at dinner and pretending everything's fine," they added. The redemption arc: a surprise ending. Despite the chaos, Hilaria and Artem still received a respectable score, 27 out of 40. Derek gave a 9, Bruno gave a 9, and Carrie Ann, perhaps predictably, gave a 7. When asked how she felt about the score, Hilaria laughed softly. "Honestly, after that debate, I'm just glad nobody threw a paddle at me." Her humor and poise seemed to win over even her critics. In the following days, fans flooded her social media with messages of support, calling her Grace under pressure and the real star of the night. Carrie Ann clarifies her comments. 2 days later, Carrie Ann addressed the controversy on Good Morning America. "I stand by my critique," she said, "but I want to make it clear, I respect Bruno, Derek, and every dancer on that stage. My job is to uphold ballroom standards, and sometimes that means saying the unpopular thing." She added with a smile. "Besides, Bruno and I have been fighting like siblings for 20 years. We'll survive." Bruno later responded with his signature flair during a press junket. "Darling, if we didn't argue, people would think we'd been replaced by robots." The tension, it seemed, had cooled, but fans knew the sparks between them were far from gone. The bigger picture: why this moment mattered. Beyond the theatrics, this clash raised an interesting question that DWTS has wrestled with for years: should the show prioritize entertainment or technique? As the show evolves with TikTok stars, reality TV personalities, and viral sensations, traditional ballroom purists like Carrie Ann have grown increasingly frustrated. Meanwhile, fans, and often the producers, favor charisma and spectacle over perfect footwork. Hilaria Baldwin's performance became the lightning rod for that very debate. Her dance blurred the line between art and authenticity, rule and rebellion. And maybe, just maybe, that's what Dancing with the Stars has always been about: a battle not just on the dance floor, but between worlds, the purist and the performer. The aftermath: a united front, sort of. By the next live show, the judges appeared back in sync, laughing, playfully teasing, and even poking fun at their blow-up from the week before. Tyra opened the show with a cheeky line: "Don't worry, folks, we've installed referee whistles at the judges' table tonight, just in case things get too passionate again." Carrie Ann grinned. Bruno blew an imaginary whistle. Derek winked at the camera. And as the audience laughed, it was clear that the storm had passed, but not forgotten. Conclusion: the night the ballroom burned bright. In a season filled with glitz, gossip, and glitter balls, it takes a lot to truly shock Dancing with the Stars fans. But Hilaria Baldwin and the fiery debate that followed her paso doble managed to do exactly that. The fight between Carrie Ann, Bruno, and Derek wasn't just a spat, it was a reflection of what keeps DWTS alive after nearly 3 decades: passion, unpredictability, and a little bit of chaos. As one fan perfectly summed it up online, if the judges are fighting, the stars are shining. DWTS just gave us the drama we didn't know we needed. And just like that, the ballroom glittered on, with Hilaria Baldwin at the center of one of the most unforgettable nights in Dancing with the Stars history.